Hello, and welcome to the Excerpt. I'm Taylor Wilson. It's no secret that baseball has been resistant to change for much of its century-plus long history, not that you could tell from the last few years. Major League Baseball, under the tutelage of Commissioner Rob Manfred, has seen shifts on everything from the addition of a pitch clock to the universal designated hitter, and even changes to extra innings rules. So are robot umpires next? Major League Baseball this spring experimented with a new system that could radically shift how the game is called. If officials deem it successful, a challenge system for balls and strikes using automated technology might arrive in the regular season as soon as next year. For more on the tech and its potential impact on America's favorite pastime, I'm now joined by USA Today MLB reporter Gabe Lacques. Gabe, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thanks for having me, Taylor.
So, Gabe, let's just start with this technology, this system itself. How does this automated ball strike system, or ABS, work, and how would challenges within this system function?
It's kind of low tech in a sense because there's no flag to throw or anything like that. The only people who can challenge are the pitcher, the batter, and the catcher on a given pitch. And so they simply will turn to the home plate umpire and tap the side of their head just like that. And then the umpire walks away from home plate and kind of looks up at the press box toward the official scorer and sort of gives them a signal that the previous pitch is being challenged, and he makes an announcement to the crowd as such. And then there's a person hooked up to this automatic ball strike system that's charting every pitch, and they basically replay the pitch, and an animated simulation of it is played on both the scoreboard at the game and for viewers at home, which I find really interesting because it's kind of the one replay system that among the major four U.S. sports that really kind of unifies the experience for both the viewer and the fan watching in the stadium, because they each see the sort of animated depiction of the pitch and whether it was a ball or a strike, so people immediately know. And that's kind of interesting because sometimes you watch a football game, you get a different replay at home than they do in the stadium. So it's technology that's been around for most of a decade, but the actual execution of it is pretty simple.
In terms of just kind of how we got here, what led up to this point? Why did some argue there was maybe a need for this in the first place?
You can't really stop the march of technology, right? So way back, let's say the early 2000s, 25 years ago, umpires started to get evaluated based on a tool they had in the stadium called the Cyclops tool. Hitters and umpires both kind of wanted to know if it was a park that had that because it might affect the pitcher's strike zone. Eventually, that got commuted to sort of the online experience of watching baseball. You can see the box on your computer. You can see the box on your television as well. And suddenly, I think became a greater fan outcry to get all the calls as correctly as possible. In the meantime, MLB did approve instant replay. That was more in the early 2010s, first for just home run and so-called barrier calls, and then it advanced, as you know, to safer out calls at first base, stolen base attempts, things of that nature. So it's kind of this creep towards optimization that baseball has been on for the past 20 or so years. As fans got more into that and saw that calls might have been a little bit more egregious, they became a little more vocal, and that is something that Commissioner Rob Manfred's very in tune with, is what fans are yelling about, what they're crying out for, and also he is big on kind of the optimization of the game as well. So it's this was sort of the natural destination for all of this all along, and perhaps the challenge system that we're seeing is kind of the happy medium that feels acceptable to players, umps, and fans alike. It's an interesting point in time, and I don't know how much further it may go from here, but this seems to be working pretty well so far.
Well, I want to hear a little bit about what we've seen over these last few weeks, Gabe. I mean, it's had this trial period during spring training. How have you seen this fall kind of across these games over the last few weeks? I know we now have a slightly larger sample size in this trial run.
It seems like most players like it because they like to be proven correct, even from veterans to rookies, and players who are rookies now, they've possibly grown up with this system. The challenge system first came into play in 2022 in the Class A Florida State League, and now it's kind of come up to the big leagues. Some guys have played with this all along. You kind of saw that with the pitch clock as well. the rookies were well acclimated to it, and it was the veterans who maybe got a little saltier about it. But you're seeing guys maybe getting comfortable with it, maybe being a little leery about it, and it's got to be a reaction thing because the challenge can't come from a bench; it has to come from you, the participants. So it's almost has to be a snap thing where you're like, oh no, that was a ball, and immediately kind of do this. The fact that it's just an experiment is a little helpful because I think if and when, and it only seems like a matter of when this comes along for good, I'm very curious how kind of the veteran and rookie caste system works out because if you're a rookie, you don't want to like blow it and blow a challenge that maybe a veteran guy wants to use later. Additionally, what time in the game you do use it? Is it do you want to use one in the fourth inning? Which statistics say that like the earlier you challenge something in the game, it may have a greater impact because it kind of has a longer reaching effect on the sort of simulation of the rest of the game. At the same time, you'd like to have a challenge in your pocket if it gets down to the eighth or the ninth innings. And I did manage to sit in the stands for a few games, and you hear fans talking about it and kind of being oblivious to it when it does happen because you're at a game, you're watching a pitch, you may not see what the fan on the computer sees, and then it's like, oh, that pitch was challenged. I didn't realize that, and then they have to go look at the scoreboard and realize it's happening. So it happens so quickly, and 17 seconds has been the average response time when they tested in the minor leagues. But it happens so quickly that you don't really realize it's happened at some point in time unless you're really locked in on every pitch as a fan or even as a media member.
So is it fair to say then, Gabe? I mean, what I'm hearing is this really brings more strategy to the game.
I think so. Yeah, it's you got to know when to use it. You got to know, how good your instincts are. It's definitely more strategy than if it was straight up robot umps where, the computer tells all, is unimpeachable in its decisions. At the very least with this, it sort of creates another skill set, if you will, and a certain amount of the win element. So I don't think that's a bad thing for sure when you talk about a lot of strategy in baseball getting phased out with technological advances and everything. This at least brings back a little bit more brain power that the person has to use in real time.
So, Gabe, who are the biggest opponents here, and what kind of pushback are we hearing from them?
Well, it kind of digs into the real existential question of the automated ball strike system as a whole, because Rob Manfred was really kind of pushing for that over the last maybe 10 years. You kind of got the sense that was the direction he wanted it to head. Began experimenting with it in as far back as 2019 in the independent Atlantic League, which is now an offshoot of Major League Baseball. So, the drumbeat was really kind of growing louder for automated ball strike systems. That was when you saw a lot of pushback and a lot of sort of bemoaning of what might be lost. Beyond just the fact that it would make the game literally kind of more robotic. There would be no arguments over balls and strikes, all that kind of stuff. It also took away a skill that's become more, I guess, more granularly measured in baseball, and that's a catcher's ability to frame balls and strikes. And if you suddenly made it an automated ball strike system, that skill would go away. Not only would the umpire be sitting there with virtually nothing to do at home plate, but the catcher, he's not a pitch framer anymore. He's basically just a guy who catches the ball and maybe throws down to second to try to steal a base. So I think that was a kind of a bridge too far for players. And I think the commissioner has listened to that to the point that, they've sort of settled on the challenge system as kind of a nice halfway point as opposed to just fully going over to automation.
And Gabe, how is this technology landing with the fans so far? I mean, have you had any conversations this spring? Are you getting any feedback from them?
The feedback is positive from what I've heard, simply because it isn't that much of a disruption. I think in any sport, the most annoying thing about any kind of replay review is the time that it takes. For me, I think the worst right now is probably basketball, just because, they'll take 5 minutes, to see if, a ball tipped off a guy's pinky before the other guy hit it. Typically that happens towards the end of games, which really kills the momentum. Football, they seem to have gotten much better at it. Again, the 17 seconds it takes in the minors, it seems like it's even less than that in the spring training instances that I've noticed. I think fans are going to be into it, and I think they'll appreciate it when it saves their guy a ball or a strike, certainly.
Well, Gabe, this is just the latest really in a number of sweeping changes to baseball under Commissioner Rob Manfred. How is this part of a broader vision of change from him?
It's a matter of wanting the game to be faster, fan friendlier and responsive to fans, and also to take away, I guess, a lot of that vitriol that people get when they don't think that things are correct or optimized in a sense. Why are we living in the year 2025 when we can have an unmanned taxi drive us automatically through the streets without a driver? Yet we can't say what's a ball, what's a strike. And again, there does come a certain point where it's like the art versus the science, because the science is there obviously, and you can pretty much 99% certainty say what a ball or a strike is. The art is the catcher framing and presenting the pitch behind the plate, the point at which a ball crosses the plate. All these other things. Every pitch is entirely different. You can certainly 99% of the time say that was a ball, that was a strike. There might be a little tiny window of subjectivity there where one person's ball is another person's strike. I think there is a bit of an eye toward, let's not entirely lose the humanity from the game while making it as accurate and optimal as possible.
Well, zooming out and looking at baseball's appeal at large, I think it's gone through a few of these. I don't know about existential crises, but these moments, right, Gabe, over the last few years, especially in this era. Do you think integrating more technology really generates more appeal for new audiences, Gabe?
It's a interesting question, because I think zooming out even further, do people get burned out on technology? Do they appreciate the occasional analog experience? You think of how you can have every song you want on your phone at this point in time, yet people still go out and buy vinyl. Even kids, like, hey, this thing is cool. I can touch it. I can put it in a pack and take it home. So that is a really interesting question, because our tastes shift all the time as consumers, as users of technology. I think the biggest appeal is just in presenting the most accurately officiated game, most fairly played game that fans can enjoy.
So in terms of what's next, I mean, we've had this trial run here in spring training, Gabe. When will this arrive in the regular season or playoffs when games actually matter?
Very strongly anticipate it being 2026. Commissioner Manfred has indicated on a few occasions he's comfortable with the appeal system, and he's not so much comfortable with the full-on robot automated ball strike system, on every single pitch. So you can kind of get the sense that they want it to not be an unmitigated disaster during the spring, and they'll continue to keep an eye on it in the minor leagues throughout the regular season. But so far, no major flaps, and I think by the end of spring, people may even get used to it to an extent if you're in one of the ballparks that has that full time, and maybe come the regular season, fans will start missing it. Players will start missing it, and if all goes well this spring, then maybe the desire for it will actually exist to come in 2026, and that seems like a pretty smart bet to say we'll have this in place by next regular season.
All right, it's a fascinating moment for the sport. Gabe Lacques is a MLB reporter with USA Today. Gabe, thank you so much for making out some time for us.
All right, you got it, Taylor. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. I'm Taylor Wilson. I'll see you next time.